Hi everyone, Keith Darkberg Farms. It's obviously winter out. We're in the greenhouse right now. But hey, that's not what I'm here to talk to you about today. Today is the time when we start planning out our garden for the year, your farm, and your homestead. So today we're going to be going through the SeedTime app and kind of show you a little bit of the ins and outs. And go ahead, down in the description, there's a link to a free version of it. So go ahead and check it out. So let me show you. But first, don't forget to head over to arkenbergfarms.com, digital tools and training. Scroll down near the bottom, link in the description as well. Go ahead and check it out. A bunch of cool stuff there to help you plan your farm, keep it organized, keep the books going, and run it right. So go check it out.
So SeedTime is the ultimate garden planning app, great for your farm, garden, or homestead. And if you follow the link in the description, you can access a free version of it. So this is what you're going to end up with after you start the program up. You've got to log in, sign up. No credit card needed for the free version of it. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to get a couple introductory videos, kind of walk you through how to actually set it up. We've gone through that, and we are to the point of starting to plant our first garden. So we'll scroll down, enter in our zip code, which is going to automatically populate. We want to make sure and click on ours, which will set our growing zone. Next, it'll auto-populate your spring, last frost, and your average first frost. If you're in an area where you have somewhat of a microclimate, which some people do in mountainous areas or valleys, you can adjust these as needed to really help autofill stuff in later. And we leave these two on. We'll leave the crop warnings on for now. You can shut them off. If you're doing a lot of winter and really pushing the seasons, you'll want to turn that off because it gets a little annoying after a little while. And then go ahead and turn on the winter garden algorithm, which is helpful, but they're still working on some tweaks with it. So we will go ahead and click this through. Now the garden has been successfully updated, so we want to move over to our calendar and start actually working on planning out our first garden. So this is what we end up with when we go to our calendar. First thing we're going to want to do here is actually make sure we're on the right year. Then we only want to look at 12 months. This makes it a lot easier to actually see what we're doing. Now it is time to go ahead and add our first crop. We can add it up here or over here in the add crop section. So we can just go ahead and start typing. It will auto-populate some things as well. We'll do beets first because this is a very interesting thing because we only do 3 varieties of beets. We can select from crop variety as well to choose the variety we want. That just helps you in the field a little bit more. I know we always plant the same 3 at all times, so we'll just leave that blank. Gives us a color. We can also do a label, which is optional. We could add things like the jang ruler we use, the type of seed we're using, if we're doing transplants, any of that fun stuff. Next, we'll go into the advanced settings here. So we'll just go ahead and leave it relative to frost date, 4 weeks ahead of time, which is actually what it's recommending. We can choose transplant or direct seed. We're going to leave that on direct seeding. Spacing helps really good with actually the garden layout part of it, which we'll get to in another video. So at this point, we're just doing row spacing, 10 inches in between row. That's what we do on the farm, 3 rows per bed. And then plant spacing, 3 inches. That's about average. 2.5 is what the jang roller does typically. Dates to maturity are going to pretty much stay the same. Harvest window, pretty much the same. This is the one thing we're going to tweak is the succession planting because we don't want to plant beets every 3 weeks. We know that on our farm. We want to have more spaced out, and then we'll top them and sell them until they're gone, until the next is ready. So I've found it best here just to do 10 weeks. Then we got the option of row cover, no row cover, So one row would be like inside of a greenhouse. It's got exclamation below. Greenhouse with row cover, all that fun stuff. And then we will click schedule. This will set up our beet cycle. So as you can see, it automatically populated over on our calendar when we're going to direct seed them, when we're going to harvest them, and so on. It appears I already have the task filters switched, but this is what you'll end up pretty much automatically. It'll bring up all of the preparations for beets. So we have bed prep, which you do about a week ahead of time. You plant them, you do a cultivation, you come back and do another couple cultivations, and then you harvest your beets. So now that we have that out there, we will add another succession. We just simply click these three dots here on the side of it, click add succession. Now it's giving us a heat warning because this is technically a cool season crop, but again, we're not really concerned about that. And that's where actually turning off the warnings can be helpful when you get a little further into this. So it automatically added the second round of beets here. Our cultivating, our harvesting, and all that stuff. So we want to add another round. And now we're going to add our third succession by clicking add succession again. It goes ahead and populates it. And there are our beets for the year right there. We also do a fourth succession in the high tunnels. Let's go ahead and add that in. Now this is giving us a winter warning as well. Again, great to have when you're starting out. After you know what you're doing, it's really nice to actually shut those off. So we've got our direct seeding about the mid-October, and that's when we seed our overwintered beets. Now, as you can see, this is where the task filter comes in because all of this stuff is really starting to clog up this calendar, and we've only got just beets in there. So with that, we can go to the task filter. We can turn off things like bed prep. We can turn off things like transplanting and cultivating. We'll leave transplanting on. And it really starts to actually clean up the calendar quite a bit. Now you can see much more clearly just the activities on this one crop. From here you can add other crops as well. So we'll go ahead and let's just say add some tomatoes. We always do indeterminate varieties. And they're primarily cherries. So we can even label it cherry tomatoes. Again, we can select the variety here. We'll just add black cherry because they're delicious. And it auto-populates everything from here. Now with the advanced settings of something like a tomato where we're only going to do one, we don't have to worry about. We've got our spacing between rows, our spacing in row, our harvest, and then our successions, which we don't do successions, so we don't have to worry about any of that stuff on this one. So we just go ahead and schedule it. So it automatically populates again when our seeding date is. So looks like we're doing about the second week of March, and then transplanting the first week of May. Now you can see this little blued area on here. This is actually when our frost dates are. Now we know that we're going to actually put this into a high tunnel, so we can actually push this a little more. We can go back into our cherries again. And now we're going to work with the advanced settings just to kind of move it around. So instead of 6 weeks, we're going to do 8 weeks. That'll shift us back 2 weeks on the timeline. And then we're going to schedule it. So that pushes the transplant week to the week right after the last frost. We know we're out of the danger of a freeze in our area. That might not be the case in all areas, but this is typically when we transplant our tomatoes in. So then we can scroll down and see when we're going to start harvesting them. Because we know we get our tomatoes the first week of July, roughly. So the harvest window opens up a little ahead of time, and then it'll just continue through the end of the season until we hit our actual first frost here. So now everything else is open. With this, we'll go ahead and click and add another crop. We could say, let's do zucchinis and check it out. Oh, this is a very interesting one. Zucchini is not listed this way. It's actually listed under squash. Now we go into crop variety and type in zucchini, and there's our zucchinis. Black Beauty, which are the green ones. Shouldn't have to mess with any of the advanced settings in this one at all. And here, days maturity from seedling. Then we schedule it, and it brings it right into our list. So it's got our seeding date, our transplant date. This is all the very simple stuff. We actually do it a little different here, but this works very good for this option. Now again, this is a crop that we only transplant roughly 3 a year. So we'll go down to our succession spacing. So again, we want this at 10 weeks, just like our beets. That way they're going to kind of line up as well. So we'll schedule that, and then we will add our successions in. So it does show that we have a gap in between our first succession of zucchini and our second. If we don't want this gap to be as large, we're going to say move it back. Oh, it looks like 14 to 20, so we should move that back 3 weeks. We can go back to this original one, click it, and then change our actual succession spacing. So instead of 10 weeks, let's do 6 weeks. And then we will get rid of this one we did not like. And we will add the next succession. There we go. Now we have a zucchini harvest overlapping this one when they start to get a little worn out, and start our next one. And again, we can just simply click Add Succession. Add another succession. Now we're running into the cooler time of year. So we get all 4 successions. And just like that, we have it all working out the way we want to work. And we have times for doing all of our tasks and knowing throughout the season where we're going. Now you can continue to run through this, and eventually your calendar is going to look something like this. So you've loaded all your crops in, they're all ready to run. You've got all your succession plantings in. There's our big one, lettuce, which I threw in there, and it somewhat complicated things, but not really. And then they're all displayed beautifully on the calendar. So you can look and kind of see where, your big weeks are going to be, where your shorter weeks are going to be, and just kind of the task list that you have going on. That brings me to the next thing, which is actually looking at it from a task view. So we'll go into tasks. Now right now my task list is empty, and that is because it is set on January 3rd. We'll actually move it a little further into the season so we can see what we have coming up. Let's just move into the middle of May when I know it's going to start getting busy out. So now we have all of our tasks showing up nicely on here. So this is everything we need to do that week that is overlapping the center of it. Now we do still have our task filters on, so we want to turn on cultivating as well, and bed prep. Now all of those activities populate, and you can see, wow, that's going to be a busy week on the farm. So as you go through, finish what you need to do, you can actually go through that week and simply click that you're done with it. Simple as that. It ends the task. We'll leave that open. There's also a great way to go through and print this. So if you have a farm with a lot of people, you can actually print out this list, go hang it on your walk-in or something, and as people do it, they can check it off. The other option is you can go in on your computer and do it because it works best running on your computer, but you can also go in on your phone as well. Just log into SeedTime, go and check off the things as you're doing them in the field. I'll show you real quick the print view. So there is a printed list of all the tasks you need to actually do on the farm for that week. Very simple, very easy to print out, hang up in your building, and then work your way through them. You can also separate them by only showing certain tasks at a time and only have to worry about what, say, one person's going to do. They're all in charge of just, say, bed prep. So you can just leave the filters, only leave bed prep on, and it'll make a task list only showing that. In this instance, we're showing everything. Another good thing with this is your journals. So a journal would just be something that you keep throughout the year. A lot of people just write stuff down in notebooks, but the neat thing about this is that you can actually do it by what your actual activity is. So we're going to add another new journal entry. We can start writing anything we want. We can attach a picture. We can select our plantings. So we can say, you know, our kohlrabi's 1, planted too early. So next season, we can go through our journal, look at our notes, and kind of figure out what worked great, what didn't work great, what kind of moved from here to there, which changes seasonally, and also just by the season in general. And once you save it, it goes over into your task list. Oh, we need a title first. So we'll just call it planting. Then we can easily click around and look at our different entries that we did for this year, last year. Like this one, ultra, application per label, and then what we did on and a tag, we tagged it underneath bed preparation. Great tool for going back and looking at it. We also do a lot of our entry through Airtables as well, which we'll get to in another video as well, and how we kind of organize our farm that way. We have all of our records of planting, harvesting, what goes in the fields, what comes out of the fields, all of your general food safety stuff that you need, and it makes life so much easier when you're actually looking at things, especially if you're being certified organically. You can do the same thing with this. With any type of organic certification, you keep records, you show them the records. You give them access to this, they have the records. It's their job to sort through it and actually figure out what you did afterwards. The final thing we're going to look at, we'll just go back to our calendar real quick. The final thing is shutting off those annoying warnings you get. It's very important for me because we grow things outside of the typical season. Any home gardener is going to want to leave those on. So they have warnings that, hey, it's going to be too hot for this crop. Hey, it's going to be too cold for this to actually finish up. So we just went into settings. We scroll down. We turn off crop warnings. As easy as that. It's done. They're removed. We don't have to worry about it anymore. So there we go. I can easily look at my season in a single glance, scrolling down the calendar. SeedTime is a great tool for planning out your garden. Traditionally, we've always done it through spreadsheets. We kind of know how things are going and where they're going just by what we've done every year. Basically, we're just doing and repeating. I plugged everything through here this season, and we're going to run with this because I really like where things are falling out on the calendar. Again, I had to do a little bit of tweaking here and there with the timing between successions, and like especially with the lettuce, that it only, it's does a session for 2 weeks, but the harvest window is 15 days, which makes them overlap on the calendar and it starts to stretch them down. I found just simply time of harvest 14 days, and we got harvest, and it just continues down the whole entire calendar like that. The final part about this is they actually have a really cool online store as well, where you can purchase your seeds. You can also purchase equipment through them and other things that they recommend, so you don't have to do the hunting through the 1,500 different websites out there. You can actually look at the tools that are useful for your farm specifically. So again, there's a link in the description. It'll link you over to get access to a free login and setup with SeedTime. You can only do one garden, and you don't have access to everything. There's also a really nifty garden layout tool as well, where you can actually visualize and make your field and actually put the crops into them throughout the season as well. Very neat, very cool. I'd like to get into that here on a later video, but we'll see how time allows. So check it out. As always, hope y'all like what you saw today. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank y'all. Have a good day.